Hey everyone, we recently did a really great workshop on differentiation for IT service companies, mainly MSPs and cybersecurity companies. It was focused on kind of four main areas: service differentiation, branding differentiation, messaging differentiation, and then cadence and channel, basically marketing differentiation in general. And just wanted to showcase some of the highlights, and the link to the full workshop is right below if you'd like it. Thanks. So we actually did a lot of research on this, and there was a good survey that you may have seen of 1,800 MSPs done by Datto at the end of last year. 95% of the respondents believe that now is a good time to be an MSP. And actually 3 out of the 5 MSPs stated that they have increased their revenue over the last 12 months. So things, revenue-wise and growth-wise are looking really good. On the other side of the coin is, for the second year in a row, competition was actually the number one challenge that was reported by these MSPs. And as per the company that ran this study, it indicates that MSPs will be forced to become better marketers to stand out and continue to increase revenue. So really, that's what we've seen across the last few years. There's this kind of growth trend going on, but tons more people are coming into the marketplace, hence the competition increases, hence better marketing and sales are needed. This is what we've put together on kind of, okay, how do I differentiate? How do I do this? And it's really a 4-pronged approach. There's service differentiation, pretty straightforward, branding differentiation, which we'll talk about and get into, messaging differentiation, and then just channel and cadence differentiation. So what are some options here? Based on research, and these may be things that you guys are aware of and have added into your service mix. But cybersecurity, of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm sure, but 61% of SMBs were the target of a cyber attack. That was in 2021. Numbers are increasing on that. But it's all about expanding those options, I think. Because it has been shown recently that MSPs are struggling with their security expertise despite the technology keeping pace with the ability to combat those breaches. So the options are there. It's just there's a struggle going on internally. And cybersecurity is one of the top ways to get in the door, as you may know. There's a large kind of IT knowledge gap in relation to security at your client organizations. But there's, of course, risk on the other side for MSPs, especially with 2 things coming soon: the FTC safeguards coming June 9th, which you may know about, and then the new Biden administration cybersecurity policies that are really shifting responsibility from companies and people to the software and to the cybersecurity providers. So that's kind of something to think about and weigh in. But 4 main areas, as you see here, that have been shown as kind of growth opportunities for offering services is 1, compliance auditing, training, policy building for clients. That internal policy creation is being shown as a high growth potential in 2023 and beyond. Pen testing, actually only 20% of MSPs sold this in 2020. That number has, of course, increased, but that's something that is definitely, I think, warranted to add into your mix. 24/7, SOC services, dark web monitoring, et cetera, is something to look into. And then your virtual CISO services would be another area. And then outsourcing factors, increasing the operational efficiencies in order to differentiate, thinking about that and looking for those outsourced options in relation to, first, are we doing this internal coverage, outsourced coverage, and what are the factors of outsourcing if we're going to do that? Really, number 1 is going to be that quality and competitiveness. It's, again, always interesting to me when we work with certain clients, like who they're working with, which vendors are they working with, and we normally kind of start to touch those relationships. And I've done training under like Galactic Advisors, for example, and how good is that training? How much information do they have? So things like competitive tools and services and leading solutions and services, checklists, training, guidance, is that all part of the relationship? because that's really going to help you as an MSP, obviously, increase your service mix, your capabilities around those services. Two, do you have a familiarity with the ecosystem? If you're using ConnectWise, for example, and then adding in their cybersecurity, it's not going to be a large jump versus going to somebody new on the vendor side of things. Internal investment versus the software and service price. Thinking about like the SOC, we were talking about 24/7 internal SOC is going to be a very different price discussion versus access to a SOCAS like as a service kind of SOC services. Favorable pricing to improve margins, do those calculations. So, if you think back to what we were saying, 95% of all these purchase decisions are subconscious in nature. And, all the service information is absolutely very important. And we'll get into messaging in a minute. But this branding piece is also very important. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking or take a ton of time or anything like that. And this is actually, what I was just saying. It's hugely important. And this disparity between the two of there's that 95% of the purchase decisions being made. The average revenue increase from consistently branding is 23%. That's a huge number if you think about your revenue. But then only 9% of companies report that their brand presentation is very consistent. If that's not a differentiation factor right there, I don't know what is, because just by making sure this is occurring at your company, it's going to do a lot. What is branding though in practice? So two pieces to this. One is really document it, pull together the colors, the fonts, your logo assets, your voice, your tone, image guidelines for your brand, and document it somewhere. If you have Teams files or wherever it may be that you hold everything for your company, make sure everyone has access to it, knows about it, and knows to follow these people. And then, as you see on the right there, have that as the go-to for every external facing marketing, sales collateral, client onboarding docs, as I said, everything just has to include those aspects. And really it's looking at the feature, whether that's a service you offer or a feature of one of your services, can be either one. Breaking that down, talking about the benefits of that service or feature. And this is really a lot of times where a lot of MSPs or companies, IT companies in general, kind of stop, or they may add in that third level, which is the business benefit. What are the resultant business benefits of that service or feature? And that's kind of where it ends, either at the second level or the third level. And we want to make sure that we're pulling this all together, all four levels, because it'll really benefit you on the differentiation side of things. So for the third level, just to touch on that, think about the outcomes you've seen for your clients and what possible outcomes could occur thanks to your services. Okay, that's really going to connect on the decision maker side of things and say, okay, this is great. They've got RMM services. They do this and this. Those are the benefits, understood. But what are those? What's the ROI? What are the business benefits of this? And then lastly, the fourth step is stories. So stories are hugely important and something that we see very minimal number of companies actually use this, hence the differentiation factor. Shift from that informational approach, which I know this is hard, as most people in the IT world are technical in nature and kind of data driven in nature. Shift from that informational approach to a story approach at this level. So a story relies on experience and emotional shifts and observable results and that impact on people. And why should you do this? It builds credibility, it builds a connection, and there's kind of this instant trust due to authenticity. So important when we're talking about differentiation, because again, back to the slides we talked about earlier, that there's a lot of people out there offering the same services. So how do you differentiate on the marketing side? And this is one huge piece that I would recommend definitely adding in. So last area that I wanted to really hone in on was from a differentiation perspective is channel and cadence. So these four main areas I think really bring together marketing in general. So beyond the channels where your target audience is, but your competitors aren't. And that when looking across channels and what you're doing right now from a marketing perspective, to me, there's really two buckets to be in from a top of funnel and to middle of funnel kind of ideas: brand building and lead gen. And look at your mix of, are we doing blog writing and social media and all that stuff, which is more on kind of the brand building side of things? Is that where we should put all our eggs, or are we doing a nice mix between that and lead gen of actually doing, let's say like offer advertising, for example, and putting together different really relevant offers and things like that. Use innovative strategies on those channels. Test things out is a big thing that we always talk about. Is a lot of companies will just jump right into their campaigns without thinking about any strategy, and they don't test anything out. They're like, all right, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going with, and they just throw it out there. So make sure you're testing out. Cadence and consistency is so important. And I don't want to be in any way controversial with this, but if I had $1 for every MSP or IT company who has tried blogging or social or other areas and just stopped doing it after a short amount of time, because marketing does take effort. It takes work, it takes time, it takes consistency. So make sure that you're continuing on with things. And then, use that messaging that we were just talking about across channels. And there's actually, I put increase as you go down the funnel, but I was actually thinking about this right before, and I was thinking it actually has an inverse relationship. So as you go down or through the FBBS framework, meaning, I'm just starting a service, here's the benefits, here's the business benefits, here's the stories. As you get into that kind of meatier stuff at the end, the higher up the funnel that you can use that messaging. So the early stuff, the benefits of your service, people at the top of funnel, they don't care about that, right? They care about it if they're high pain point and you're just solving that, but a majority of people are not going to care about that as much when you're top of funnel. If you're bottom of funnel and you've already got the relationship driven with them and you're on the sales cycle side of things, perfect. Talk about your services all day and how great they are in your experience. But when you're higher up in that funnel, the stories are really what's going to connect with them. So just that inverse relationship there. And then a couple of examples that I was thinking about for this is, first of all, LinkedIn long form posts for thought leadership content would be a differentiator. I think that also goes along with your personal brand. So, Terry or Nick or whoever may be watching this after, if you want to think about your personal brand in addition to your company brand, you could use LinkedIn long form posting for that and to showcase thought leadership, as I said. Expert videos, this is one area that we always try to work with clients on, but it's a lot of times tough too, because people sometimes don't like seeing themselves on video. Understood. But it really is a great way to showcase that IT knowledge gap that is occurring between the services you provide and a lot of times, the end clients, if you will. Or even, Terry, to your point, you're working with MSPs. There may be still that big expertise or knowledge gap that you're trying to fill. So expert videos, short form video content about things may be good for you.